You are listening to the Real Anime Podcast, or good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are listening to us in the world right now. We thank you for, listening to us, giving your time and day to listen to us, where today we're going to be talking about The Dark Knight. Yes, it's not me making a pun of my last name. Yes, my last name is actually Knight. I kid you not. Each time a person says The Dark Knight, I should get some sort of royalty for that. I kid you not anyways. But yeah, today, Mohnish and Lewis, I'm joined by him as normal, as you can see here. Mohnish, say good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are.
¿Cómo estás, everybody?
Yeah,
Glad to be here. And of course, I support Lewis's right for royalties, Dark Knight mentioning.
Yes, then Mohnish will get half of it also, so you're most welcome. All right, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, guys, how's everyone doing? Yes, today this is our 51st episode, and today we're going to be talking about the greatest Batman film out there, maybe, that's just me, The Dark Knight, which was released back in 2008, directed by Christopher Nolan, and he had a lot of amazing people in the film. Christian Bale as Batman, Heath Ledger, R.I.P. to the guy, did a very good performance as the Joker, R.I.P. to him. Michael Caine, you have Maggie Gyllenhaal, Morgan Freeman, Aaron Eckhart, and a load of other people, right? So yeah, Mohnish, how are you, first of all?
I'm doing good, ready to talk more Batman.
Okay, all right. So that's so the reason why we're doing today's episode of The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan, what a guy, what a legend. If I can have a pint with him, that would be amazing. And I guess I'm just kind of in like the Christopher Nolan sort of feeling, just our previous episode we just did the Odyssey, and just watching the Odyssey, just reminds you of what a guy Sir Christopher Nolan is. And that's the reason why we wanted to just take a trip back down memory lane and just decide to do one of his, maybe one of his best films out there, Dark Knight. And yeah, it's a classic, right? We both can agree on that. It's a classic film ahead of its time. I think it even made over $1 billion in box office with a budget of 185 million, if you believe that, right? So fantastic what he did. But yeah, enough of me talking. I think I've been blabbing a bit too much about the film. Let's get into the podcast now, guys. So yeah, so Mohnish, we both love this film. Consider this as like a great film alongside Chichat Man, Ultraman. It's certainly a good film. And one of the characters that we was talking about before the podcast began was Heath Ledger as the Joker, right? Now, we've had Joaquin Phoenix, played as the Joker, and obviously Heath Ledger play as the Joker. Now, my question to you probably need some time to think about this. What makes Heath Ledger the perfect Joker?
So, I guess we're not talking about Jared Leto lah.
Anyway, you could use him as...
No. I can use, okay, look, Heath Ledger made the Joker a different kind of villain, but he also was the most popular Joker, right? Like, Heath Ledger's history with the Joker is etched forever in comic book and movie history, because The Dark Knight represents a tipping point for many films that basically have come out since: the MCU, the DCU, the DCEU, so many U's, and
LCU.
only one him, the Lost Cinematic Universe. Oh, yes. No wonder, got it. And so there's so many different things where you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, The Dark Knight happened, right? And then of course you think Heath Ledger's performance was talked about so much. He won an Oscar posthumously, unfortunately, R.I.P. to the man. But there's also that moment where he was able to embody the unpredictability of Joker, the way he steps onto stage, or rather onto the screen, with such a commanding presence. But also while he's hidden, especially in that opening scene, where in The Dark Knight, that opening scene really hits, where they're doing the heat level robbery, and then he's basically talking to everyone else. And the bank manager actually starred in Heat as well. So that's a little bit of a Christopher Nolan nod. And then you see Heath Ledger reveal himself at the very end with the mask and everything. It's one of the coolest opening scenes in movie history, in my opinion. And the way that it introduces this character is so visceral. It makes the audience understand what kind of person we're dealing with, what kind of Joker we're dealing with. And Heath Ledger, if I understand this correctly, obviously I have to look back on this a little bit on my own. I can't say I necessarily experienced this, because in 2008, I don't think I was thinking too much about the sociopolitics of what the Joker and the actors were going through. I understand that Heath Ledger was not exactly widely accepted as the Joker. There was a lot of criticism with him, with his casting, and there was a lot of ideas about who instead should be the Joker. And, those people turned out to be wrong, and Heath Ledger gave us the performance that he did. And I feel like when you see something as iconic as what Heath Ledger's Joker has become, you really have no choice but to just be like, yep, that's it's perfect. And he does become a perfect Joker the longer I watch the film. But also, all credit to how his character is presented in Christopher Nolan's way. He's presented Joker in such an iconic yet powerful way. So I think that's really what makes Heath Ledger's Joker the perfect live-action Joker.
I think you've already done justice to Heath Ledger over here. He's one of a kind. Him as the Joker, he just really he does a bloody fantastic performance as the Joker. The most memorable scene, I think you and we both can agree on this, was just that hospital scene. It was around about, I got the exact minute, like the plus minus minute around here. It was 1 hour 55 minutes of the film itself. The moment where the Joker was in the hospital, doing his thing, acting like, one of the things, it just brings me to my next point. One of the things I really like about the Joker, the ability to blend in, the first 5 minutes of the film, he was one of the bank robbers, and out of nowhere decides to kill his partner, and then reveals to himself this is who I am. I'm just ooh, damn, that's quite a very cold introduction to the character, and himself being the Joker, we paint a persona saying that the Joker is kind of like a bad person also. But one of the things that I really kind of picked up on, obviously when you watch this, Mohnish, right, you can agree with me with this. We watched this film when it came out when we was probably about 9 years old, right, or 19 years old. You guys won't know our ages, but you do the maths and you guys figure it out. So we wouldn't understand a lot about this when we was that age, but now we are both 37 years old men. Oh yeah, never mind. Now we're grown men. We kind of tend to see the Joker is seen as a bad guy. However, some might say that he could be seen as a good guy. Now, let me paint you a perfect example, right? There was a scene when he was meeting with his associates, remember? Not the scene with Lau, but later on the film, there was this. I'll put it, if you guys are watching on the podcast, we'll put the scene right here. The scene where, we think of him as an evil guy. He's very power hungry. He wants the whole world. He wants this, he wants that. But what he teaches us is that he might be an evil guy, but sometimes he does the unexpected. You know what he does? He basically burns the money. So it kind of shows that he is seen as a bad guy, but one of the aspects I really like about Christopher Nolan is kind of the way that he kind of just you have a representation of the character here, but out of nowhere he just 360 transformed the character into something hang on a minute ago I was saying this guy's a bad guy, but this guy actually has a guy who is a guy who has a bit of sense. So it's just okay. And I have the exact quote from that scene itself. I did see the quote is, "It's not about money, it's about sending a message." And I'm just
everything burns.
exactly. We're both on the same wavelength here. So it kind of shows that not all bad people are actually bad people. Okay, yes, there are bad people who are bad people. But
well, I could have used a buck or two. Could lend him. He can lend me a bit of money there.
Of course, pay for my food for my hungry hippos or anything. But it's the way he is as a person, where you think this, but he's otherwise like this. That quote alone, it's not about the money. It's about sending a message. That is not to say the best quote I've heard of all time, but that quote alone kind of explains to him as a character. Now, moving on to the next question. Now, obviously, when Christopher Nolan, he kind of just threw the rule book out the window. He adapted a bit from the comic. However, he kind of I like to use this word, Nolanized it, right? Kind of add his own twist to it. If you think of superhero movies, you probably think of the superhero saving the day. Batman technically is the one who saves the day, but it's not as simple as going from A to Z. It probably starts off as Z, then goes to H, J, blah, 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 blah. You get the picture. The next question I want to point at you is, why does The Dark Knight does not feel like a typical superhero film? Now, when you think of a superhero film, what is just name me any film superhero related, that first thing that comes into your mind. You can use it as a comparative analysis also if you want also.
Okay, Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2, okay. Spider-Man 2, what do you think of it? Tobey Maguire.
Fantastic. It's one of the best, if not the best Spider-Man live action I've ever seen.
Yeah, all right. So that's what we think about when we just say the word superhero, right? We think of Spider-Man, we think of Cheetah Man. No, just kidding.
Superman,
all these sort of things, right?
Yeah.
But here's my question: why does The Dark Knight does not feel like a typical superhero film?
Well, going back to what you said about the rule book thing, I don't actually believe Christopher Nolan threw out the rule book. I think he switched the rule book from what a quintessential comic book film those days would mean. You'd look at Batman Forever with George Clooney. You'd look at the Batman before that with Val Kilmer, and then after that you'd look at George Clooney was Batman and Robin. Batman Forever was with Val Kilmer. And you look at how those comic book movies were made, and even if you go back even further and you see Michael Keaton's Batman with Tim Burton, and you see how those films were made, especially the Tim Burton ones and the Batman and Robin ones, they were incredibly divisive but also unique. Tim Burton is known for his aesthetic, right? The slanted, more fantastical aesthetic. You know, he
Charlie
leans
and the
more into
Chocolate
the
Factory.
yeah, Edward Scissorhands, you know, Beetlejuice. So you look at that aesthetic and you see how it feels more fantasy, you know. So I feel like Michael Keaton's Batman lent more into the fantasy realm, especially with Tim Burton at the helm, right? And then of course you got Batman and Robin, who I forget who directed it, but to be honest with you, that film was one of the low points of the Batman franchise because it was not received very well. But that film is also unique. Gotham City looks like some crazy place that has been cyberpunked up, so it feels very strange and awkward, but also really weird and normal. Also, Batman had nipples then, so that was a whole different ball game, literally. And when you look at how Christopher Nolan approached The Dark Knight, you see Heat, you see Michael Mann, you see Collateral, you see those references, and when you look at it that way, automatically it becomes this very intricate and interestingly structured film based on, yeah, not the comic book rule book, but it's more of based on the Michael Mann Heat rule book with some Christopher Nolan, or as Lewis put it, some Nolanization in that format. But also it's kind of funny because it's not so much that he tried to make Heat 2.0. He made a comic book film feel like a crime thriller, and that's what differentiates it, because it's not about trying to make a great comic book film for him, which there's a benefit in that as well, but he chose to make something that both prestige cinema and everyday cinema could bridge a gap with. You know, Iron Man never won an Oscar, and it never will. The Avengers films would never win an Oscar right now unless Doomsday comes out with something. Batman films win Oscars, Joker films win Oscars, and I feel the reason that Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar, not just because of his performance, but also because when you look at his character being portrayed with the taxi driver aesthetic, and how prior to that Heath Ledger was portrayed with the Michael Mann aesthetic, of course with Nolan's eye, and that really bridged a gap between what you would look at. It's like choosing between Iron Man and The Godfather. Who's going to win the Oscar? Of course The Godfather, but Iron Man is still one of the greatest comic book films ever made. You can't say it's not. It's the reason the MCU exists. But prestige cinema, which is The Godfather and all these things, they tend to not award comic book films. Like, you can't imagine Ant-Man as an Oscar-winning film. It'll be a very strange thing, but also maybe you might find a great performance there. You know, you have Oscar winners. You know, you have Michael Douglas. I don't know if Michelle Pfeiffer won an Oscar, but you know, she's there too. And then when you go back to The Dark Knight, you see Heath Ledger's Oscar. Then you see Joaquin Phoenix's Oscar. Of course, Jared Leto, maybe the Academy snubbed him. No, I'm kidding. But you know, you have all these bridges that have been built by The Dark Knight that have ensured comic book films that are made in a certain way get their due, get awarded their due, and get seen as more than just something that pops off the page. So that's how I feel The Dark Knight excels as more than just a superhero film. But Lewis, I like your next question that you put down here, which is why was Christopher Nolan perfect for this film?
Yeah, that's a question that, you know, I'm still like, I put it down because I'm still on the high from the Odyssey, you know. I wouldn't consider it as like Nolan's best work, but it's still a solid film, you know. He's the type where he delivers like, you know, 4 out of 5 stars all the time. I feel like Nolan is the perfect guy for this because, you know, he's done like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's done like a variety of genres, you could say. Let's take back this film, for example, The Dark Knight. Maybe it's like a neo-noir film, like a crime thriller, like along these sort of genre lines. All right. Then what else you have? You have the Prestige. You could say it's like a bit of like a drama, I guess. Bit of this, bit of that. And, you know, and then you have like Oppenheimer. I guess you could say it kind of like leans into like maybe a bit of, not to say sci-fi, but maybe like, you know, like a lot of, not sci-fi. Sorry, not sci-fi. I forget about I said that. But let's just say it's like more or less like historical events, like based on true events, right? He's the reason why he's perfect for this is because like the way he kind of like takes on a film with his style, right? You can give him like, he's perfect in a way where you could give him any genre, any, like, obviously he has to write his own story, but like any genre, and he's able to find a way to kind of like bring the best out of the film itself, right? And one of the things that I feel that like Christopher Nolan like really like does well is basically like working with people whom he knows very well, let's just say. Christian Bale, let's take for example, he's worked with him on The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, The Prestige also, and some other films probably, I can't think of the top of my head.
Batman Begins.
And Batman Begins, right? These 3 films, sorry, 4 films, sorry, I failed maths. Like, so, you know, in a way, he's kind of like a perfect guy in a role, because you could argue saying that like he already knows the persona that he wants and the people that he wants to be able to like play the main character in this film, right? And second of all, Christopher Nolan is the type of guy where he has somewhat of like a complex, like his own structure, right? So, you know, in cinema we have like your typical 3-act structure. You have the European style, Asian style. I'm sure there are a lot more styles of cinema we have out there. However, with Christopher Nolan, he kind of just like adds in like a lot of like elements of like maybe time in there, you know, a bit of mystery in there, like, and all these sort of like elements which kind of just like blends sort of well together. And then once he's able to like blend it all together, this is like the product that you get. And last but not least, one thing I feel that he does a good job with is being able to know how to get the best out of his main characters. Now, yes, he uses like more or less the same cast, but the way he kind of writes them for them to have like this like sort of like character development journey is one of the things that I feel like he's perfect for this, you know. And hence, and I mean, fun fact about the guy doesn't even own a smartphone. He even hand delivers his like scripts to like all his actors, you know. Brother doesn't even have an email address. Don't think he even has Instagram. Nothing. He's kind of like living that, you could say, the hermit life, disconnected from the outside world. And that's one of the things I like about him, because, you know, when you're disconnected from the outside world, that's when you could be alone with you and your thoughts only. And some ways you can get ideas just through watching films or reading. What do you think, Mohnish? Like, what makes him perfect as a director? Maybe he could direct one of my lost films, you know. He'll probably make Dick into the best character. He'd probably be better than Christian Bale, but a man can dream, but that ain't gonna happen.
Well, you know, he has such a interesting way of seeing things, but also he has a clear way of seeing things. He understands the difference between how he's able to really like showcase a character and really understand the narratives that build ideas together. And, you know, he just knows his structure really well, right? But I think now we should move on to our next discussion, which will be Batman versus Spider-Man and who is our favorite, because I'm gonna assume Lewis likes Spider-Man, so that's why this is here. So that's an interesting discussion to have. I feel like both characters have a lot of things to provide. But yeah, I mean, Lewis, which Spider-Man in particular are you talking about? Because now we're going into comic book territory, so you've got a ton of Spider-Mans to choose from. So yeah.
Actually, I prefer Batman.
Okay, well, then this is going to be a very short podcast.
No, just
Batman,
kidding, yeah.
Batman wins.
No, because like, okay, I wouldn't say like I have like a clear favorite, but it maybe just I lean it slightly towards Batman. Reason being because like Batman for me, I've read some of the comics, not a lot. I mean, you've probably read all of it, Mohnish. Played some of the games, of course, and I kind of like grew up more watching Batman. Actually, I still remember when I was younger. Also, I think my parents bought me like one of those like Batman figurines also. When I was really young. I don't know where it went. And
I mean, I have a statue of Christian Bale's Batman
there
in my
you go.
room.
And plus you have the Batmobile right in your house, if I'm not mistaken.
Several, yeah.
Yeah, you have that in your house. So, you know, like, and reason I just like Batman because I kind of grew up watching it more often. Like, you know, last time when we was watching Astro, you know, it was on channel 41 on HBO. Sometimes I always watch Batman on Astro. And I kind of like grew up watching like Batman. And it's just a bit me being biased, but I kind of watch Batman because they use the Dark Knight, they use the name Knight, and that's my family name. So that's probably one of the reasons why I like to watch it also. And
he was looking for his relatives there.
Mr. Nolan, please.
Maybe you see one of the fellas they're locked up in the pin there. You can see. Hook
a brother up. No, but on a serious note, Batman for me, I kind of just like his aura, like his personality. You know, the man doesn't even smile or laughs or anything. He just has that aura that you can't really explain. But I kid you not, when we all heard his voice, like, you know, I'm Batman, when he does like a very low pitch voice.
I mean now obviously everybody makes fun of that voice because it's like they're like, oh, he sounds like he has throat cancer or something. Yeah, you know, that's literally well, I don't think the Americans know who that is, but you know, there's also I mean there's the one thing about Christopher Nolan's Batman that I felt was is probably outdated in today's version is that his Batman never actually gets dirty, like literally never gets dirty. Not until Dark Knight Rises. Sorry, until Dark Knight Rises, where he's fighting Bane and the suit gets really wet and stuff. But aside from that, if you look in the Dark Knight, he doesn't actually even get dirty, even with explosions and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at the Batman with Matt Reeves, it is one of the grimiest Batmans ever. You know, like he's literally in the side of the Longkang changing into Batman. So it's literally like there's whole kinds of things, and also there's the one thing where where Christopher Nolan leaves it as sort of an underlying message of how psychotic Batman actually is. You know, like he's one of my favorite characters. He is my favorite comic book character of all time. But we often get caught up in the heroism side of it, and we don't actually even see the psychotic nature of a billionaire dressing up as a bat, beating the shit out of people. Yes, they may have committed crimes, but what if he turned his attention to someone who did not commit a crime? You know, like he's literally that close to just being the Joker.
I mean, if
you know,
I was just gonna say, I mean, if you remember towards the ending of The Dark Knight, he literally had the opportunity to end the Joker's life. Remember that?
Like that's that one rule where Batman does not kill is the only thing keeping him from being the Joker. Because unlike the Joker, he has the money, he has the connections, he has the name. Nobody in the world would suspect Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne could kill anybody tomorrow, and literally nothing could happen. So that's actually one of the scariest, but also most interesting parts of the Batman character, because he's actually a psychopath, who just understands how to control himself a little bit better than the Joker does.
Yeah,
that's literally the difference between Batman and the Joker. Because we have the heroism part of it, but I also argue that he would have been able to have the life he wanted with Rachel if he gave up his Batman identity much faster. But he couldn't, could he? And Harvey Dent took the blame for him initially, but look what happened to Harvey Dent.
Yeah, became
what happened when he got an alter ego? Harvey Dent became Two-Face, and Two-Face instantly became a villain. Now, of course, there was an arc to it, and the brilliance of how Nolan structured it allowed that arc to be fully fulfilled. But when you look at it from the point of view that, maybe this is not what I'm doing, maybe I should just stop beating up people in a suit. Maybe I should give these tools to the police, which is a thing he explores more in Dark Knight Rises. It shows the real psychotic nature of what Batman is capable of, because if he did not have Alfred to raise him, he would be the world's greatest and most terrifying serial killer. So as a kid, you probably don't see that, but now when you grow up, it definitely comes across, because the Batman is literally, if you want to look for a more heroic thing, maybe go to Superman, but Batman is more of a psychopath who just got lucky.
Yeah, I agree. And yes, we did the ending discussion is Batman versus Superman. I still have a preference for Batman. However, for Spider-Man,
you mean Spider-Man? You said Superman.
Sorry, Superman. Sorry, let me repeat that again. I have I would say, if you were to compare Batman and Spider-Man, I would say that I still would say that I like Batman just a bit more than Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man, don't get me wrong, Tom Holland should not be Spider-Man in my humble opinion, but I think it's just me sounding like an uncle because I just want Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. I know, yes, in No Way Home they did like their reunion, they met up all in that last scene or whatever, but for me, I'm still
I mean, like, just to go on this tangent, I mean, Tom Holland is the most successful Spider-Man right now out of the three of them.
He is.
There is no Spider-Man that even comes. Okay, to be fair, you do give. I grew up in the Tobey Maguire era, so he is my Spider-Man, and Garfield's great too, but he got lost in my sort of thing. I still love Tobey Maguire, and with Tom Holland, my issue with him primarily stemmed from the fact that none of his first three Spider-Man films were actually Spider-Man for Spider-Man.
It's not like a Spider-Man story, let's just say.
It's not. It's just a film that features Spider-Man that is advancing the character of another character, or in the case of the first one was like Iron Man teaching Spider-Man how to be Spider-Man, and then the second one was Mysterio, and the third one was No Way Home, which introduced the multiversal concept in the wider MCU. So what I do like, and I have seen Brand New Day, Lewis has not, but he's going to be watching that soon.
In a few days time.
Yeah, but without spoiling it, Brand New Day does feel like Tom Holland Spider-Man's first real Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with that, and obviously the film there still has flaws, which we will talk about in a podcast episode down the line. But yeah, I think going back to these these two characters, Batman versus Spider-Man. You know, I always, ever since I was a kid, I grew up loving Batman, and Batman's my guy. Love Spider-Man as well. Fantastic character, but I'm more of a Batman fan.
Same.
But Lewis, I'm very excited to move on from this discussion to our letterbox review segment. So why don't you send over the reviews you have in mind, and we will get to reading.
Okay, so now we're on everyone's favorite part of the episode where Letterbox, please sponsor us, and Satay Kacang. We haven't forgotten about you guys. So we're going to be reading some of your feedback. Well, actually not your feedback, but some random people's feedback about the Batman, and we're going to read my review and Mohnish's review. So if you guys are watching this on podcast, I'm going to put the reviews right here so you can see. I'm not doing VAR. It's right here. Boom. So as we see now, we have Mohnish Rajakumaran, who actually rewatched this. I mean, he's probably watched this like gazillion times already.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight, and he watched this on the 6th of August 2026. So let's begin. This film is more than comic book royalty. Yes, it won an Oscar. Yes, Heath Ledger left us with the performance of a lifetime, but The Dark Knight is what cinema is to me. A perfect blend of entertainment, cinematic style, and reflection, albeit a stylized one of the world we know today. This rewatch brings back so many memories of watching this in the cinema with my dad, and how it was the first time I felt truly inspired by a film. Now, this film itself, when it came out, it does have like a bit of nostalgic value to this, hence that's the reason why we gave this a high performance. And what Mohnish said is a fantastic film, right? And it's a bonus for actually watching this in the cinema. I can't remember whether I watched this in the cinema, but I know I watched this on Astro like once upon a time.
There were actually some reruns that came out last year that came out in GSC, Interstellar and The Dark Knight.
Yeah, so I mean, if one fine day,
I hope that Christopher Nolan puts out more reruns. I would love to watch this film again in cinemas.
Same here. It's a fantastic film. Now, moving on, where
I will be reading Lewis's review, which he also watched on the 6th of August 2026. Just a little side note for everybody. We did rewatch this for the purposes of the podcast, which is why you may notice some similarities in the dates. But back to Lewis's review, where he provided it with a 5-star review, just like me. And he starts it off with a quote saying that it's not about money, it's about sending a message. A quote from the Joker that makes you question whether having money is powerful or leaves a long-lasting impact on how we see things. Heath Ledger, gone but never forgotten, the way he portrays the Joker, someone who's unpredictable, has no empathy, and is unforgettable, is the perfect contrast to Batman, a man with an aim, instilling fear in the bad people, and dedication to hard work, doing everything to make things right. These two characters are just the main reason why we watch this film. Overall, I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan's approach to making this film feel less like a superhero film and more like a crime drama with a strong narrative structure, two strong main characters, and a deep foundation. I'm still on that Christopher Nolan train after watching The Odyssey. I felt like I just wanted to go back down memory lane. So that's Lewis's. Now, Lewis, you'll be reading another review, right? Now, I like Lewis's review. I think his review, he even put a spoiler warning on his review, very kindly, to those who have yet to see it. I suppose it's for the Gen Alpha when they come and have a look. But I have no notes. I think 5 stars is what I would give it. There's usually a lot of like contrarians in other reviews who simply want to review bomb, but I'm glad that we have a good review.
Oh yeah,
so Luis, what's your next review?
My fella that I have today, I don't know if it's a fella or a lady, I'm not so sure, but let's just say this person's name is Miranda, not Miranda Cosgrove from iCarly.
Sounds like a lady to me.
Probably Miranda. Hey, it's probably Miranda Cosgrove. She probably watches our podcast. The person from iCarly. That's a throwback right there.
I love iCarly.
Oh, same here. All right. So she actually watched this on the 6th of August. She copied us. Now, and she gave it a 5-star. Also copied us.
Thank you for watching it for the podcast, everyone.
Yes, thank you for watching. But nevertheless, this is what she said. The best superhero movie of all time only. Quite a big statement. It could be the best, but I'm sure there are other films that can be spoken about. I'm sure if you ask Mohnish, he'll probably give you like a podcast for like 5 hours on debating which one's the best one ever, and we're gonna be there forever. But yeah, this review straight to the point, and it's certainly a good film. Let's put it as that. Now, Mohnish, you have the last review of today, where you are gonna be reading from who's the
I'll be reading Cinema Sauron.
Who's a pro user.
Not only does he enjoy The Dark Knight, he's given it 5 stars. He also clearly is a Lord of the Rings fan. So he watched this, or she watched this, on the 11th of November 2014. Nice. A classic review, shall we put it? More than 10 years. So that's literally 12 years ago. So, and he or she states very clearly in one sentence, if you do not like this movie, I do not like you. I mean, I have no notes. That's why this review has 16,999 likes. So it's literally 6,999. So
I'll make it
if you all
17,000.
not before me, yes I did.
So it's 17,000.
You can now you can make it. So Cinema Sauron, if you are here, you now know this. One of us has made your review a 17,000 like review. So thank you for the lovely review, and thank you all for your lovely reviews. And hopefully, if you enjoy this segment, keep reviewing on Letterboxd, and we may just see it. And our Letterboxd profiles are linked down below in the podcast. Do follow us so we see your reviews as well, and we will definitely add them into the podcast. And thank you all for watching. And Lewis did a great job doing this episode, so give him a big round of applause. He can't hear you, but he can see you. So
I can
it's just like that.
I can hear.
It's just like that film. It's just like that film, Sound of Metal. Cannot see, but cannot hear, but can see. So, thank you all for being here, guys. We're very excited to keep doing these things for you. Quick side note: we'll be having a good slew of guest episodes coming up, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And we will be delving into the topic. Well, we have a friend who's interested in Jaya Nayagam, the latest and possibly last film for the new Tamil Nadu, I believe, governor or something. Anyway, I forgot what title he has, but stay tuned for that, because I can tell you that guest has a lot to say. And we also will be delving into the world of queer cinema with our next follow-up guest as well. So take care.